And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
I'm going to spend the balance of this second hour now detailing the controlled demolition of the third tower, the 47-story skyscraper that fell after 5 p.m. on 9/11, 8.5 years ago. Why am I now going to do that? Because it not only gives evidence of government-sponsored terrorism, it shows how they put out a story that's ridiculous, but because the FBI, the police, the firemen can't believe the government's this evil, the government could say, we're going to blow this up, get everyone back, and tell hundreds of police this on video. And it was all over radio and TV, and then they came out and said, no, we didn't blow up Building 7. And then Larry Silverstein went on PBS a year and a half after the event and said, yes, we did give the order to pull or demolish Building 7. Then he got caught lying and saying, well, I meant getting firemen out, but firemen had been out for 5 hours. He said we gave the order to pull it and then watch the building come down. And we have all these police videos, all these interviews, all these newscasts where they said they were going to bring down Building 7. Then they changed the story and said, no, it's fallen on its own, perfectly in its own footprint. And then they did that early. They screwed up in the internal press release that was put out to CNN and BBC, and Building 7 was still standing for another hour after the CNN, 25 minutes after BBC. Then you hear the explosions, you see the blast, the building falls, there's police saying, get back, they're getting ready to bring down the building, they're about to blow it up, boom, it blows up and falls. And then they come out and tell the public that, no, we never said we were going to blow it up, that's a conspiracy theory. And then years later they come back out and say, okay, we were talking about blowing it up that day, as if they could plant explosives in a building when it was on fire. Limited fires, but there's so many facets to this. So what I'm going to do now is go over the article that spurred me to cover this today, because this is another mainstream admission by media that was there that day that, yes, indeed, Silverstein was calling the insurance company, discussing the controlled demolition of Building 7. And it's just from another source. There are hundreds of sources. I have not just played the CNN and Fox and local news clips of the firemen and police saying, get back. They said they're going to blow it up. They're going to bring it down. And those clips are coming up. It is to know that these reporters and the police and the firemen who weren't part of this would willfully then be told a ridiculous cover story and then play along with it for the last 8 years, saying that no one ever talked about blowing it up or they didn't blow it up. The official 9/11 Commission report and the NIST report is it fell from fire. Not hit by a plane, small fires on 3 to 4 floors, and they say it fell. And they've given 6 different reasons and changed it each time for why it fell. It had the CIA, FBI, IRS, Defense Intelligence, emergency management for the state, the county, and the city in that building. They were running Tripod 2 drill, not in Building 7 that day. They'd moved a mobile command post the night before, and the deputy director of FEMA, Mr. Kennedy, told ABC News that morning, well, we arrived last night for a terror drill. And then people said, well, what do you mean for a terror drill? And then he said, I was mistaken. And then it came out in congressional testimony they were running Tripod 2 of the towers being attacked. So they moved out of 7 because they were running a simulated attack on 7. And then Giuliani that day admitted they were running drills. Then he said, oh, I never said that, despite the fact we have CBS, ABC, Fox, radio, TV. I mean, just incredible amounts of interviews. I think, 7 different interviews he did that day, saying, yes, luckily we were out of Building 7 because we were running a drill that day. So again, they lie on every front. That's a whole other issue. But I literally had flashbacks last night of all my research, of all these video clips of the police officers. We didn't just watch the videos of the cops saying, get back there blowing up Building 7. We then went out and found, 9/11 Truth went out and found police officers. I've interviewed 5 of them who were there and heard the countdown or were told get back, they were going to blow it up. When you're in Manhattan, people walk up when you're holding up 9/11 Truth signs, business men and women, firemen come over and pat you on the back and say, we know the truth, but we're too scared to speak up. You know, we heard them say they were going to blow it up. I mean, I was going to the pizza place at 4:30 in the afternoon. I had been on Genesis all day on other shows, continued coverage, back at the time, 8.5 years ago, and I heard ABC News on the local news affiliate, 590, the station we're on, saying, oh, they're looking at demolishing Building 7 so it doesn't damage other buildings. I mean, you heard it. You saw it. How many videos and audio is there of this? Then it's a clear controlled demolition, and Silverstein comes out and says, we didn't blow it up. But previously said they did blow it up. And then you get a Fox News reporter going, look, I was there. I was with the city officials. I was with the power company and the Port Authority. And yes, Silverstein called the insurance company and wanted to demolish it, but we decided not to. But then it just magically fell, and they magically put a internal press release out that the building had already fallen because they had their coordination off an hour before it falls. I mean, we just absolutely open and shut. This is like catching a serial killer in the act of chopping up a little girl, and you go dig in their backyard and find 20 bodies. And then you find videotapes of them dismembering people. I mean, it's absolutely open and shut. And what does it say about the FBI? What does it say about the Defense Department? What does it say about the NYPD? What does it say about all of these people and how cowardly the average American is that these cops and firemen would know they blew up Building 7, and the majority of them have kept their mouths shut about it, knowing it killed their colleagues in Tower 1 and 2. I mean, how mega evil is this? How much worse can it get? What are we expected to accept next? And so when we wrote this big article for Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com in the early morning hours, I couldn't sleep after I read this. I've been fully up since 2:30 in the morning. And I saw this, I guess, at about 10 at night. Fox News. Because it literally caused flashbacks and an epiphany of further understanding that this is the system we live under. This is the New World Order control grid that they can steal our pension funds. They can steal $28 trillion in the last year and a half. They can lie about WMDs. They can launch new wars. They can lie about the Gulf of Tonkin. They can do whatever they want, because the public will not face up to evil. They are just ready to buy into any asinine fraud. And again, just covering Building 7, which is the biggest smoking gun, is only one of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of points that all prove this thing was a complete inside job. From government documents where they were calling for staging attacks to blame it on foreign enemies, where they did it in many cases declassified, the hijackers trained at U.S. military bases. The list goes on and on and on. There are just countless examples of this, how the entire story is a fraud. But what got me so upset was seeing another big, high-powered reporter just wade into the PSYOP and just take part in this. It's thoroughly disgusting. This is Jeffrey Scott Shapiro. Shame on Jesse Ventura. The former Minnesota governor has discredited himself and dishonored and defamed his country. Our country's run by offshore banks. See, always the terrorist, always the bankers. They always invoke, oh, you're not patriotic. The former Minnesota governor has discredited himself and dishonored and defamed his country by promoting the mistaken view that our government was involved in September 11th attacks. Jesse Ventura should be ashamed of himself and embarrassed. No, we should be proud of his courage. The former Minnesota governor recently lent his political credentials to the discredited 9/11 truther movement by aligning and by alleging that the September 11th attacks were either planned or permitted by the United States government. During a March 10th interview with Barbara Walters on The View, Ventura implied that Bush-Cheney administration used 9/11 as a pretext to start the Iraq war under false pretenses. Well, we know they used it for that. We have the memos of Rumsfeld 5 minutes after saying, go major, go massive, say Iraq did it. I mean, Ventura apparently developed the theory after former Kennedy Johnson advisor Robert McNamara visited him at Harvard and allegedly admitted to him that the Gulf of Tonkin incident, which escalated the Vietnam War, never really happened. That's been declassified for 4 years. Ventura was at Harvard 4.5 years ago when this got declassified, so McNamara admitted it. It isn't Ventura alleges that McNamara admitted this. It was declassified at that time when Ventura was a professor at Harvard, a visiting professor, a visiting scholar.